Hey guys, this is the applying Excel for chapter 25. It seems to be confusing a lot of people, and I don't blame you. It's pretty confusing. So really all they're trying to do is teach you a couple new functions in Excel, the sum product function, and then the Excel solver, which is actually something I had never used before having to do this problem. And so I'm not an expert in it by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, so I was going to show you how to go about doing the problem. Anyway. So here's our instructions page. It tells us the little backstory here behind the company. And then it wants us to use a formula in cell E12 for total contribution margin to create formulas in the blue shaded cell areas. And it wants us to do total contribution margin using sum product and machine hours using sum product. So all sum product really does is it's going to like combine, because we already have total contribution margin, and we could do it this way: B9 times B12 plus, so here's that, so B9 times B12 plus C9 times C12 plus D9 times D12 will get us the total contribution margin. That's all it's doing. But they're trying to teach us how to use sum product so we could use it in other ways in the future, which is just another formula in Excel. So we use sum equals sum product, and then it's set up in arrays. So in essence, what we're going to say is we're going to take, these numbers, B9 through D9, and we're going to multiply them by this, the contribution margin per pair. So now, right now it's 0, just like our total contribution margin is. If we said we sold 500 pairs of Medina and 250 pairs of Ballard and 300 pairs of Fremont, it would calculate that for us. You'll see that my calculations come out to be exactly the same, whether I'm using the total contribution margin formula that was already in there for me or using the sum product. That's because they do the same thing. They're just showing you another way to do it. So I'm going to return these back to 0 so we can move on to the next part of the problem, which is using sum product for machine hours. Again, if you look at the formula here in machine hours, it's just B9, let's see, B9, the number of pairs, times B19, which is the machine hours for cutting, plus C9, so that would be the total number of shoes of Ballard, times the machine hours for cutting for Ballard, and so forth. To use sum product, and again, you'll see, the other thing is they're using these little dollar signs. That's just so they can use the fill tool here. It says stay on B9 no matter what. Okay, that's what that means. So again, they're just teaching us how to use sum product. So we would use it this way: equals sum product. And array 1 is going to be B9 through D9, and then comma the array we want it to multiply by, which would be B19 through D19. So it does the exact same thing. Now, if I tried to just fill this using this little tool here, it would get all screwed up because it would move. If I was on B9 through D9, it would, the next one down, it would move, it would shift it, and it would do B10 through D10. So if I want to be able to use the fill tool, I just put these little dollar signs around the B9 through D9, and what that tells Excel is even when I fill down, leave these numbers as B9 through D9. So now I can do that. And then you'll see this one's B9 through D9 times B19 through D19, these ones right here. And then the next one will be B9 through D9 times B20 through D20. And then this will be B9 through D9. Whoops, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. B9 through D9 times B21 through D21. Okay, so there I filled in my sum product. And then the next thing it wants us to do is put in our constraints. And so we have these constraints for each of them. It wants us to do the constraint as a single formula. So this constraint is just that this equals F19 to F21. So you see it highlighted those for us. Will be less than or equal to G19 through G21. What we're saying is we're limited by the resources we have available. So we can't use more machine hours than we have available. That's what constraint means. We're telling Excel, when we figure this out, that this number here can't ever get higher than this number. That's a constraint that we work under. Okay, so it returns that this is true to us. We're also going to tell it that B9 through D9 must be greater than or equal to 0. And some people like to have all capitals. And that's actually just a constraint that we're going to use when we use the solver. So the last thing it wants us to do is use the solver. What the solver will do is it will find the optimal blend, optimal product mix to maximize our contribution margin. Okay, this is why we had to set up this whole sum product thing so this would work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to under data, and I have solver right here under analyze. If you don't have the solver, then you'll have to install it. It's an add-in. It doesn't come as a normal part of Excel. To install it, you just go to File, Options, Add-ins, and down here where it says Manage, make sure that says Excel Add-ins, hit Go. Then you click Solver Add-in and click OK, and then you'll have it. So now when I click on Solver, it already, because of the formulas I've entered in, it already guesses for me. And in this case, it guesses right. But my objective is this cell F12. And what I want to do is you can either maximize it, minimize it, or set it to a certain value. We want to maximize it. In other words, we're saying we want cell F12 to be as big as it can be by changing the variable cells B9 through D9, which is the number of pairs of shoes. So what that's going to do is Excel is going to run through all the possible calculations of different values in B9 to D9 to find the one that's going to give us the most contribution margin. That's what we're all about, right? Is making the most money, at least for this problem. So once I have that in there, and then subject to these constraints, which again, it read that already that we had constraints going, so it's pretty smart. And then I'm going to hit solve. It's going to say, hey, it found a solution. Do you want to keep it? I'm going to say okay. And then it's now filled in that the best contribution margin for us, the one that's going to maximize contribution margin within these constraints, is 6,000 pairs of Medina and 6,000 pairs of Ballard. That's the one that's going to maximize it. If you think about it, if you look at the contribution margin for each of these, the thing that's going to maximize it the most, of course, is just to make as much Ballard as we possibly can. Unfortunately, there's a limited number of resources. And so the solver goes through all of those possible things. If you or I were to do this, we'd have to do trial and error, right? We just have to figure out the best we could. But the solver will do the math and find the way to maximize the contribution margin. So I hope that's helpful to you as you're completing it. And if you have more questions, don't be afraid to ask.